Hello, I'm Odin, and I recently got to go to the Dallas Makerspace where I got to help make a Star Wars prop. I want to say thank you for having me come out to the Dallas Makerspace.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. I had a lot of fun this weekend.
This was amazing. I've only been to a couple of smaller makerspaces. I've never been to one to this size. You were telling me that, how big is this?
It's one of the largest volunteer-run makerspaces in the world. 37,000 square feet, a little bit over 37,000 square feet. Now I know there's some that are physically larger than us space-wise, but they don't have the membership that we do. We have over 2,000 members.
The ones that I've been to before have 3D printing, they have sewing, they have a laser cutter, they may have some other fabrication type unit. You've got a lot more going on here.
We have everything. Everything's divided into committees. So there'd be science committee, electronics committee, glassworks committee, printmaking, printing, sewing, creative arts, machine shop, metal shop, ceramics, which is actually they've changed their name to Fired Arts, Vector, which they're a group that does nothing but repair old video games, old jukeboxes. We have automotive, wood shop, laser, and among every committee, in some committees there are special interest groups, like Creative Arts has Cosplay. We have quite a few classes we teach on foam smithing. You can cut the foam on the lasers. Most everything has a safety class you have to take on, more like the how not to break the machine class or how not to cut your arm off class.
Those are important classes.
Most classes, most committees, their machines, you have to take a quick class, and pretty much most everything here is free to use, with the exception of a few things that have expendable costs. We have a jump server, which everything here is on, which you can work on your projects from home. So I can go home, I can log in from home to this computer up here, work my project up at home, save it to my member folder, which is on the jump drive, and it's already up here when I'm ready to start printing or working on it.
Nice. I'm very impressed. The ones I've been to before I thought were really neat. I'm actually impressed with this one.
I love it up here. I'm here as much as I can. Right now we're in the 3D Fab. So I'm in charge of the 3D Fab committee. I volunteer for a lot of extra time to help out people on 3D Fab, so I can teach them.
I enjoyed the fact, I enjoyed the atmosphere. Everyone's creative, everyone's curious what you're doing, and everyone's willing to jump in and help. We had like 4 or 5 people help us with our project.
And that's my favorite thing about Makerspace is the stuff that you can learn from the people up here because they were willing to teach.
You wanted to invite me out, and we talked about doing 2 different projects, and the one we're doing here today that you and I did was a Gonk Droid.
Gonky.
Gonky. You wanted to call him?
Odin Makes.
Odin Makes.
Odin Makes. Like it was with the original Gonk Droid, it's 2 Rubbermaid bins, a pie pan here, and lots of greeblies, lots of added-on stuck pieces that we added on to make it, interesting. But the part I'm most proud of, and I know you've said it a dozen times, is this lip we put on it right here, which I've never seen anyone do on a Gonk Droid. It's just a laser cut piece right here with a wooden frame that we put on top, so we had a nice seam right here that it didn't look like 2 bins stuck together.
Right. We made an actual fitted.
Right, with the hinge and everything. So that's what I love most about it.
So let's actually talk about how we made the Gonk Droid. We started with a pair of storage bins. Max picked these because they had a small edge and the handles were easy to remove. Once we knew the size of them, we started to make a 3D file for the feet. Max found a Gonk foot online and he heavily modified it to be a better size for our droid and changed up the connections so we could use a PVC pipe to hold him up. A corrugated tube will go over that PVC pipe, which will look more Gonk-like. He started the prints on 2 of the 8 poly printers that the Makerspace has. One of them printed our feet, and the other one a plate of specific greebles that we wanted. Max told me that these printers were designed and prototyped right here at the Dallas Makerspace, and we're printing on one of the very first units that were made. We have some specific Gonk greeble shapes, but we can also go over to the exchange shelf. This is where the members can donate materials to each other to make stuff with. We cut a piece of drain pipe to use for the legs, and then cut the very ends of it clean in the wood shop. And the leftover piece that we had, I put back on the exchange shelf. One detail we really wanted was the vertical groove that goes over both halves of most Gonk Droids. We measure out the center, and I cut out a section that will be for the decorative groove. Now chances are this groove was actually part of whatever was originally used to make the Gonk Droid in the first Star Wars, but we get to make it now. Max used a Dremel to smooth out my cuts on the sides and to round out the bottom of each section. When the measurements were taken, we also looked at what the top of the bin size was so we could make the lip that went around the center of the droid. Max went to the laser cutting station and started to lay out the file to cut the wood rings we need for the center connector. I went to the wood shop and got help with having some of the wood cut to size. The laser will cut the thin wood for the top and the bottoms. These are going to be for the center pieces. First, the hardwood was ran through a planer, getting it down to just the right size. Then they were ran through a table saw to get them square. While all this was happening, Max got the 4 wood rings cut out on the Big Thunder laser cutter. He didn't just cut out the shapes, he also etched where the hinges needed to go so we knew they would line up. All the parts were cut to size, and we start gluing the wood together, stacking the center strips on one side of a ring, and then after a bit, gluing the other side together with the plastic bin in place. At this point, we let the project sit overnight so the glue could dry. The next morning, we removed the clamps to check to make sure everything was sitting correctly, which it was the first time. It's the little things that are fun, you know? We sanded the sides to remove the glue and get everything really smooth, and we rounded off each corner. Now, this was my first time using a vertical belt sander, and I want one. I don't need one, but I want one. And then a little hand sanding to get it really smooth. I chiseled out the marks for the hinges. I'm not the best, but I didn't cut myself, so I think I did a pretty good job. Drill pilot holes and attach the hinges. I need to cut out one more panel for the face. To fill in this hole, we're going to use an 8-inch cake pan because it really does look right as a Gonk Droid face. Now, a Gonk Droid doesn't really need to open, but why not? We could put a battery or a power supply in here later, and maybe make the droid charge phones or something. I measured the angles of the sides of the containers. We need to cut some wood to make the inside pieces for the vertical grooves. I again get some help because I have not taken the required safety classes to use any of their machines. And I actually enjoy this because I learn a lot by observing everyone and what they do. The long sides were routed, but the short sides need to be cut by hand. Now, I could have assembled them first and then have all the edges routed, but having screws that close to the spinning router is not safe for the blade or the operator. While I did that, Max laser cut some more acrylic pieces for greebles for the sides, the panels, and some grill pieces. We fit those groove parts in to cover the open sections in the plastic bins. We glue them down with plastic welder epoxy. We thought about running screws through the tops into the center rings, but somebody cut the 2x4s a little short. Max was nice enough not to point that detail out. The feet had finished printing a while ago, so we assembled them and stacked the parts to see the droid coming together. We need just one hole in the face to run the light for the eye. And we need a couple of holes on the pan handles so we can screw the pan to the plastic bin. Now, we couldn't spray paint it here because there's no paint booth at Makerspace yet, but we can paint some of these parts by hand. The holes are drilled, the pieces are painted, but it's too early for anyone else in the electronics department to be here today. So it's time to chew through what little electronics I know to get the LED lighted from a 9-volt battery. I have fried a few of them in the past, but here I had the parts and tools I needed, with Google's help, to make a resistor circuit that worked. Max got the first couple of coats of paint down, and we can start the final assembly. He laid out the pieces to be sure we had what we wanted. He sanded down the attachment rings for the feet. We made them a little bigger like they needed to be. The pipe does fit like it's supposed to. We get the cake pan put in and assemble the eye. We modified an arcade button, putting a light inside and wiring it to a project box on the outside. Gonks always seem to have additional tubes and wires hanging off them, and it makes for a good spot for the power switch. I start to pack up as Max paints his legs. I have a flight to catch to get home, even though there were parts left to put on and weathering to do. Max finished off the Gonk Droid without me, so it's time for me to fly. A little paint, 3D print some more greebles, and we have a good little Gonk Droid ready for his first adventure. Now, Max is planning on making an IG-11 next, so both droids may very well make an appearance at the upcoming Fandom Legacy Con, which will be in March 2020 in Dallas, Texas. Max has been making props and cosplay for 35 years.
I've made a total of five TARDISes.
5 TARDISes.
I made one for a couple that I know, and they were getting married at a Doctor Who theme wedding. So I built them a TARDIS, and the photos went online, kind of went viral. I mean, it went crazy. The photos, I mean, it wasn't my TARDIS, it was their photos. Their photos were amazing.
Okay.
I think even some of the people at the Doctor Who studios heard about it. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And then after I made that one, I made a completely accurate full-size TARDIS. That's in my front yard right now because of the holidays.
And he brought Dr. Detroit's gauntlet. I feel like Dr. Claw.
That's probably what people are thinking. But no, the character is Dan Aykroyd's Dr. Detroit from 1982, where he plays the king of the pimps, I guess is the way to call it.
Right.
I mean,
he's the king of the something, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a fun movie from 1982.
So you designed the whole piece?
Yeah, I did the tips here in 3D Fab, and I did the glove, this part here on polyprinter.
And what's funny is I was actually looking up clips, and while this looks like it's wrong, it's not.
Oh, it's pretty much identical. It was something in the movie. He goes into the drama department of his local college, and he raids it for wardrobe, and he brings that out. Obviously, it was from some Don Quixote musical or something. And in the movie, you see him put it on. This is an actual chainmail glove he puts on. It goes down to about here, and then there's a cuff that goes over it.
Okay. That's great. I want to thank Dallas Makerspace, Max Kirkland, and all of my Patreon supporters. You guys really do make this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.